Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another episode of Duckstories. It's Telenor's platform that celebrates entrepreneurial and professional failures. Today I have a very special guest with me today. He is someone who has led Pakistan's biggest tech company into some of its most defining years, the CEO of Foodpanda, Muntaqa Peracha. Welcome to Duckstories, Muntaqa. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. So I want to ask you, so you were born in Karachi, I know that already, and you studied in Lahore, then you went to the US for Georgia Tech, and then you came back. Now, when you look at your younger self back then, what were the values and dreams that you had that you're still carrying with you today?
I think values generally come from your family. And I have a family that's extremely independent in how they work. So I've seen my father always being very independent. He's in his 80s now and he still does a lot of the work himself. So I think that's sort of ingrained in me. That's how I've grown up. So I just want to do things by myself. Try not to do too much at work by myself, but at home, definitely. I don't like to be dependent on others. And I think that's a value that sort of has carried me forward throughout my career.
And growing up, because of course, one of the themes that Duckstories has is, we talk about failures that shaped us and how it built resilience in us, grit in us. So, koi bachpan ki kahani hai ya anything in your early career life that, you went through a failure that really changed how you see setbacks today?
So not really a failure. It's a challenge. So when I moved from Karachi to Lahore and I went to HSN, in Karachi, obviously campuses are not that big. So the school I was studying at was essentially one bungalow which housed us. And then moving from there to a school like HSN, and the first day I entered, I started crying. I wouldn't go in. So my father was like, we put so much time and effort. Actually, my mother or my father, I don't remember who it was, put in so much time and effort, and this boy is not even taking his first step going into the class. What's wrong with him? So I think it lasted for like maybe 2 weeks, but every day in the morning, I would leave home completely normal. And as soon as you enter the gates of HSN, and then there was like a couple of minutes drive, I would start crying.
And how old were you?
I was 8 years old. I was in grade 3. So it's not even as if I was a child, like a really small one. But it was anxiety. It was stress of facing. And obviously there were much older kids there as well. And going to an all boys school from a co-ed, I saw that as very rowdy. So I had to figure out very quickly how to sort of face this fear without crippling myself.
Yeah.
And eventually I did. And then I started enjoying it, from that to not going home at all, asking my parents to send the car 30 minutes late. So it was a good transition, but the first couple of weeks was quite challenging.
And what sort of a child were you? Were you rebellious? Were you like the silent, shy one? How was your personality like that?
Extreme introvert and extremely stubborn.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, weird combination. So I wouldn't go out and sort of go and talk to people myself. I would just wait for them to come to me. But then I was very stubborn in my choices. So if I've said no, then it's a no. Nothing could move me from that no to a yes, be it right or be it wrong. I hope I don't carry a lot of that now, but I've tried not to carry it with me.
Interesting. And what do you think? So now when you look back, do you think that your friends or family would have thought that you would be the CEO of a very big company like Foodpanda today?
That's an interesting one. I think my paternal grandfather, definitely. He somehow always used to, I don't think I was his favorite, but definitely one of his favorites within the grandchildren. And he spent a lot of time with us, stayed at our house as well. So he would always find me absolutely, brilliant. I could do no wrong. Friends, probably, I don't think so. We never really looked at each other in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Because in HSN, the good thing was there was a lot of variety of people. So there were people that came from professional backgrounds, whose fathers were professional backgrounds, people who were in government service, people who had their own businesses, people who came from feudal backgrounds. So we had a lot of exposure. So we only saw people as people, not really what will they do eventually when they grow up. But from a professional career perspective, I know there have been a lot of people in my organization that I've worked at who've at some point in time asked me, what are you doing here? You could do so much more. And I'm like, it's not as if it's going to happen on its own. I need to put in the time and effort, and eventually, luck takes you wherever it takes you.
And was it your dream though? Because I know we all like to climb up the आपका corporate background भी था, so I know corporate ladder का एक वो होता है कि we need to move up the ladder. But was this ever a thought for you, that an ambition for you, that you wanted to become CEO?
So I wanted to be successful in my professional career, that's for sure. I wanted to climb up the ladder. I genuinely didn't start thinking about becoming a head of an org at a certain time in life. But once I joined Foodpanda and the discussion started around, okay, what's next? Yes, then definitely it was an aspiration, okay, that I would like to sort of head this organization. Before that, it wasn't really in my mind. I just thought I'm not there yet. And it was just climbing the ladder.
No, I think I was following your story, and I think there was a big sort of like a shift in your life as soon as you joined Foodpanda. And I remember you mentioned you met Noman Sikandar, and he really liked you. I think he offered you, or he called you out for a job. So how did that happen? How did you get into Foodpanda?
So it was actually a sales call. I was trying to sell a particular solution to Foodpanda. So I'd asked someone in my office who knew Numan at a certain point in time. So she put me through to him. He was gracious enough to meet me. I mean, he didn't need to, because he obviously knew it was a sales call only. He could have easily pawned me off to someone else in the organization. So he met me. I met him. I didn't realize at that point in time the scale that Foodpanda had. This was back in 2019. So it wasn't as big as we are now, but even then it was a sizable organization, more than what I had pictured. So during that sales call, I got to understand a lot of the work that they were doing, Foodpanda was doing, and then Noman obviously sort of in that interaction was, I guess, sitting and gauging, because he knew that he would have a potential position open up, because there was a transition happening in the organization. So once that sort of opening came up, HR reached out, and then I came in again with a very different lens. Okay, now I have to be very critical. I would think of it from a very different perspective, because I've always had a corporate career, and startups at that point, the belief in startups was not that high in Pakistan. They were still, mushrooming one or two here and there, but no one had been a success, even though Eatoy has been the first acquisition of the of the country. But I didn't know that at that point in time. So it was a bit of a jump into.
It was a risk, to be honest, especially corporates and startups. It's always a risk. Yeah,
for sure. So that's how I ended up eventually at Foodpanda.
And then what was your ambition in Foodpanda? I'm just trying to understand. You joined as what?
I joined as the commercial director. Okay. So I was essentially, at that point, we were only doing food delivery. That's it. So no pickup, no shops, no marts, no kitchens, nothing else. So I was heading the foods business for Foodpanda.
So I'm glad you actually came into the verticals, because I was just going to ask you, for our audience, could you briefly explain what does Foodpanda do right now, and how big are you now?
So we are a food, groceries and more delivery platform. So essentially what this means is, so we have multiple verticals. The biggest vertical is restaurants, where we deliver food, as well as you can order via pickup. So you can order in advance and then just go and pick it up yourself. The second vertical is our Panda Marts, which is our dark stores for groceries and more. Third vertical, in terms of size, I'm just going in chronological order. The third vertical is home chefs, which is home-based female entrepreneurs generally, the men as well. So it's like a 75-25 split. So they cook from home, we deliver for them. And then we have the smaller verticals, which is pickup, which is kitchens, where we have our dark kitchens. We have our shops, which is a marketplace. So we deliver from shops, multiple categories. We focus right now on 3 categories. We're completely focused on 1, 2, 3, 4 elements only. We don't want to sort of bring everything on board. It clutters. So we focus on for shops, we focus on groceries, we focus on pharmacies, and we're focusing on tobacco, because that's a high selling category for us. So these are the verticals that we have right now.
And Isme, one of the things that I heard, I was going through some of the previous discussions that you've had already, ki Isme, one of the verticals did not work out. Was it the shops?
So we had a vertical called concepts. So what that was, you bring a concept which is a virtual brand that only exists on the app, nowhere else. And at that point in time, in 2020 and 2021, the understanding was that if you bring a brand that is present within the Delivery Hero network, so like a fried chicken brand or a noodles brand, or something else, then we just need to put it on the app and it'll scale, which probably is true. However, if you want to put it on the app, you need someone who's the operator, who's actually making the food. So we can give you the recipe, that's fine, but who's going to make the food? So, okay, one option is you go to the restaurants and do it via them because they have a kitchen and everything else. The other option is you go and find home chefs or smaller restaurants who would like to get additional revenue. We went down this route, absolutely bombed. Because this means if I want to open up 100 outlets, that means I'm dealing with 100 different operators, which means I need at least 20 people, because this is nationwide as well, to go and manage that as well. How do you maintain the quality? How do you, because if there's a fryer, the global standard is every 3 days you need to change the oil in there.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you get those dark fries, that's the reason.
Yeah.
So in case you ever run into that, call the restaurant.
Thank you for letting me know.
That's the problem. So you need to do this. The golden brown or golden yellow tint can only be possible if it's changed every 3 days.
Yeah.
There's a certain temperature that needs to be maintained. How do we sort of make sure that gets done? We had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
So we launched and we scaled, and I think we had like at some point 300 outlets of concepts.
Oh, wow.
And now we are at 0.
And how long was this duration?
We tried for a good 18 to 20 months.
Oh, wow.
Of experimentation, thinking we'll be able to solve it, but we weren't able to. Now we've changed the model completely. Okay. So we have Everyday Roastery as an example. We have a global brand that we brought into the country. It's a virtual brand. And we're scaling it slowly. We only scale putting it into our kitchens so we can control everything by ourselves. We have an operator. We don't do it ourselves. We have an operator that's running for us over there. But we went 6 months or 7 months into planning before launching.
Okay, wow.
Otherwise, we would launch and then start planning later.
But I think you did something like similar to this because you joined in January 2020 in Foodpanda, right? And March, obviously, COVID hit. So for you, it was a very challenging time. And I remember you mentioned somewhere that you had to launch, 4 verticals or 3 verticals in 4 days?
So we launched 3 verticals in 3 or 4 verticals in 6 months.
Okay.
We launched shops in 3 cities, Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad.
In 4 days.
Actually 4 cities, in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad and Faisalabad, in like 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
So from concept to actual launch.
Wow, a lot of experimentation.
Yeah, it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And we launched, and then we were so happy because in Faisalabad, one particular shop, I still remember, started doing 100 orders a day. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then it clicked. How is that even possible? It's not, that same shop is not doing that well in Lahore, and it's a Lahore-based outlet. So how is that possible? And then we went slightly deeper, and it turned out that those were retailers ordering from a nearby shop. And it wasn't a genuine customer because we put a discount there or maybe on beverages or something. So they were just reselling. So while we thought it was genuine consumer ordering and we'd scaled up really well and wow, the demand is amazing, it was actually arbitrage that was happening that we didn't realize. We realized 3-4 days later that, we need to look at it from this angle as well. That was my first introduction to learning about the creativity of arbitrage that can happen on a platform.
And then obviously you scaled as you went, right? Because this is the first year you launched all of these things, you experimented. How was the leadership aspect of it? Because I remember COVID ke time pe, the morale, the people, overall lockdowns, everything was happening. And this is the time when you had to probably lead virtual teams as well. So what was your leadership philosophy like? How are you leading your teams?
So I joined Jan and March COVID happened. In between Jan and March, we had launched, I remember, 3 cities. If I remember the names correctly, Sargodha, Gujarat, and one more, I'm forgetting, not Gujranwala. Maybe it was Jhang, I'm not sure. So we went for the launch. So I went to Sargodha for the launch. And I still remember foggy night going from Lahore to Sargodha. Couldn't see much. And I was traveling alone because I don't know why I was traveling alone. Noman was coming later maybe. So I was really excited. I wanted to go and see how a city launch happens. So that was on one side of it, the excitement part. But on the other side was that I had not met the team at all since I had joined because I was based in Karachi. So that was one team. I'd met a few of them and then we went, remote. So I'd never met anyone in Islamabad, in Lahore, in all the other cities other than Sargodha where I went for the physical launch myself. So getting work done through them without even knowing them was tough. we would have our Google Meet calls. I would beg and plead people to please turn your cameras on. Half of them did, half of them did not, and genuine reasons as well, because people didn't have a decent place to sit at their homes, because not everyone has the ability of an empty bedroom that's spare for them to be able to sit. Some had electricity problems, so they were sitting with the shirts off.
Yeah.
So those are genuine problems. So it was a struggle in terms of connecting with them from a physical perspective, but the amount of passion that all of them showed, because they were all young. I was the eldest in the org. Now I'm not, but at that time I was the eldest in the organization, I think. So they were self-motivated because there was nothing else to do. The only company that was scaling at that point in time was someone like us, or someone like a Daraz.
Yeah.
Basically, e-commerce was scaling. That's the only
E-commerce
thing.
was scaling, exactly.
And everything else was not. Everything else was shutting down. Ride-hailing was shutting down. A lot of the other organizations were shutting down or scaling down. So there wasn't much motivation that was needed, but it was incredible to see how everyone pulled together. And I remember we used to work. I remember Ramzan aa gaya tha beech mein. So we would work till maybe a couple of hours before iftari. Everyone would take a nap, wake up again after iftar, and work all the way through to sehri, and then sleep after that, because there was nothing else to do again. So घर में बैठे हैं तो काम ही करने चले.
And abhi Foodpanda is in 35 cities?
Yes, currently we're in 35 cities. Which is foods. Our quick commerce, which is groceries and dark stores, that's in roughly 12 odd right now, going to 15-ish roughly this year. Kitchens are in four cities right now.
Which is Lahore,
Karachi, Islamabad, and Pindi we're launching.
Interesting. So one of the things I wanted to ask was you do mention that there are some female writers of Foodpanda. And is there a solid plan from Foodpanda to onboard more female writers? Because I know it is one of the ambitions that you guys have. And I've seen that there are female writers, but not enough. It is a gap, right? So is there a solid plan that you have as Foodpanda to maybe empower the women?
So we would like to scale it a lot quicker than it actually is going right now. There have been multiple initiatives. We've gone to schools and colleges where university students. I met someone who was a student studying chemical engineering, and she was working as a Foodpanda rider as well. We've given the female riders e-bikes as well, so that it's easier on their pocket. Then we've had programs with the government. There's a program called Women on Wheels that's there, so where they train them and then they hand them off to us and then we put them there, but the number is extremely low. I think one colleague of mine says that there are a lot of problems that people want us to solve for them, while it's not possible for an organization to solve. These are countrywide problems. So this is one of those where how do we give females the ability to be able to earn outside their home without them having a challenge inside their home?
Yeah.
That's the bigger challenge.
Absolutely.
The challenge is not that when they're outside that they get jeered at or whatever it is that might be. Obviously that's there as well. I'm not ridiculing that. But the bigger challenge for them is getting approvals from within their home.
Yeah. Once
that is done, I've asked a lot of riders. They say when we wear our uniform, we're wearing a Foodpanda shirt and a bag, no one bothers us. I've categorically asked them, have there been catcalls? They're like, nothing has happened. In fact, when we go to restaurants, sometimes the male riders give us way ke, aap madam apna pehle khana le le. So it's good, right? We're generally a good society with good morals, good ethics, and good values. Now we just need to figure out a way of how to get them out of their home first, get that approval in place, then the scaling will happen.
That's more of a mindset internally in the family households altogether. Okay, and so one thing that I wanted to really understand was the recent economic impact report. I think is the report that has been launched with LUMS. So you guys did around $1.2 billion of impact within the country, and of course thousands of jobs creation and all of that. So would you like to talk a bit more about that, since it's been launched just at the start of this year?
So it's an economic impact assessment that we did with LUMS. So our idea was, we want to understand what's the impact Foodpanda has created. Ideally, we wanted to do it from day one that we, since we came into Pakistan, but that wasn't possible. Data was not there, lots of other challenges. So we said, okay, let's just look at last 1 year's data. So it's slightly dated because this is financial year 2023-24. So it's 1.5 years ago. So we wanted to see the impact that we had, show that to the government that, if we keep on doing the good things that we're doing and we keep on increasing ease of doing business, we keep on supporting our startups and investors coming in, this is the impact that 10, 15, 20 others can make. And imagine the impact that has on the GDP. If every company can bring in 0.1, 0.2%, and you have 10 of those companies at 2% impact on the GDP, which is huge, right? So that was one aim. The second aim was also to sort of give that confidence into the local as well as external investors that Pakistan is a country where if you put in the time and effort and you have the right sort of direction in place, there's a lot of job creation, a lot of impact that can be done. So to be honest, I was pleasantly surprised that the number was 1.2 billion in that year, because that wasn't even our best, extreme high growing year. It was a good year, but we've had a better year after that.
Yeah, it was a year of fixing, I believe, automations.
Correct.
And a lot of things. I would really want to get into that as well, because I feel like for a CEO to come in, I mean, you basically obviously had a very bigger lens on what's happening within the organization, processes, automation, all of that needed to happen, right? Innovation happens through that too. What were your challenges? Because I understand you mentioned somewhere that your workforce is very young. And of course, corporate background kisi ka nahi hai. So you need to make them think and act like a corporate now, but they are very Gen Z or very young startup mindset wale. So how did you tackle that challenge?
So there was a lot of learning I had to do and a lot of learning they had to do. Some of them weren't able to do that learning, to be very honest, and then they eventually moved out. Some were able to do the learning and they're still around. There's been a huge change between the kind of people we have now versus the kind of people we had before. The learning I had to do was, how do I get ourselves focus more on the processes? How do I get ourselves to question each dollar spent and what's the return on that? Versus, I cannot make it so, corporatized that we lose the essence of being a startup, which is innovation, which is creativity, which is empowerment. And that's what the Gen Zs want as well. Yeah. So how do we get that balance right? I'm not a Gen Z. My kids are not a Gen Z, or bhi niche, Gen Alpha or whatever it's called now. So I didn't have, the only ones I could interact with were at the office. So I struggled on that part. On the other part, it was the shift that needed to come into place in terms of people, that money is not cheap.
Yeah.
So think of this money as your own money. If it's coming out of your own pocket, will you spend it or will you not? That was the constant. वो नहीं होता है घर के एक जो दादा बैठे हुए होते हैं जो बिल्कुल senile हो जाते हैं at certain point, वो एक ही चीज डराते रहते हैं. So that's exactly what we used to do. So us and the management team constantly would question the same thing. And a lot of the all hands used to start or end with this: if this is your money, would you be spending it or not? They still didn't understand what we were saying because they're not at that, disposable income level at that point in time. So it didn't hit home easily. It took us a good year and a half to get that transition in place, even at the senior levels. So aista karke phir wo niche trickle down hui, and hence the thought process changed. We still struggle sometimes because there's a constant change happening. There's a constant efficiency, constant optimization that's happening. So whenever there's a major efficiency or structure change, people freak out. Kyo ho, ab kya hoga? Change control is something that I've learned, I think, in the past 5 years, a lot more than I learned in the previous, 18 odd years of my professional career.
And how many employees does Foodpanda have right now, minus the riders and the
Yeah. So our office FTEs are around 450 right now, spread across multiple cities. Karachi being the biggest one because this is our head office. Then Lahore, then Islamabad. Then we have a few spread out in the tier 2 cities as well. We try to keep ourselves lean as much as possible, but because of the scale and because Pakistan geographically is very widespread, even if you put 5 people in one city, That's 150 to 180 people right there.
Yeah.
And then you have all the back office works and stuff that needs to be there. So we're around between 400 and 450 right now, including everything.
And Muntaqa, what are some of your challenges? Because I understand the challenges that come with operations and workforce management in the bigger cities as compared to the tier 2 ones are very different. So would you like to touch upon what are the challenges like? How do you tackle them? And how does your team tackle them?
I think one of the biggest challenges, in fact, I was talking to someone today in the morning, one of my colleagues. I do a skip level one-on-one session. And one thing we were discussing was how do we ensure that our colleagues outside of Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad feel connected to the organization? That's our biggest struggle. Because we don't have a corporate office in every city. We have it in the 3 main ones, and then I think 3 more. But that's it. But there are 30 more cities out there. So they're working from home. They don't have that same facilities that we have. Jitni chai mangwani mangwalu, small things. We have fruit at the office, for example, try to promote healthy living. It's not there for them, right? Then we have a daycare in the office. It's not there for them. We have PlayStation. It's not there for them. So already they feel as if we've been not connected with the corporate culture. And then we as the head office team don't go to those cities enough. Like I cannot go to an Attak, for example, 10 times a year. It's not possible, right? So between the whole management team, it's still not possible. And then we have a lot of cities like that. So our biggest struggle is how to make sure that outside the tier 1 cities, how do we get those individuals connected, keep them connected to the organization? So we try through, because I have 10 people in the management team. And then we have obviously another 25 odd in the extended leadership, that we sort of make sort of like a plan that everyone travels, so that we go and constantly touch all the cities and give them that face time as much as possible. It's hard. We're not doing a good job of it as of right now. We're trying, but it goes cyclical. One quarter we're very good, then all of a sudden work piles up and we just cannot travel, and then we struggle, and then again we fix it. And so it's like a cyclical thing right now. We're trying to figure out how to make it better, but that's the biggest one, that assimilation of the whole organization into one entity.
Yeah. And so in terms of operations as well, are the bigger cities take a bigger chunk of the attention and all of challenges wise?
The highest business is here.
Yeah,
we have up and coming cities. So our focus right now is a lot on Faisalabad, Multan, Gujranwala, Hyderabad, the next year after Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad and Pindi. So these 4, 5, 8 cities basically just take by population. The top, after this KLIR, the top 5, 6 is what we're focusing on right now for the next year. So the next 12 to 15 months is going to be hardcore focus on these cities to make sure we grow them, we give the right choice to the consumers, the right pricing to the consumers, the right experience to the consumers, as well as to our vendors, as well as to our riders, so that we can scale these up. And I'm very confident we'll be able to. We just have to do a little bit small tweaks, which are already in place. And yeah, quite excited about seeing how these scale up.
And your focus of this year was focusing on the sustainable growth, right? Just trying to sustain what's happening, I believe.
That was more last year.
Okay, that was last
year. This year our focus was on pumping the accelerator.
Okay.
So last year we fixed a lot of our things. So we know on a unit economics level where we sit. And now if we accelerate in 2025, if we accelerate that to the right levels, we can scale very easily without too many issues. And then whatever money we make, we can reinvest that into our business to further scale. So that's happened this year. Now, next year, the focus is how do we grow our quick commerce business a lot more? Because it's at that level now.
Panda Mart, right?
Panda Marts and shops, both combined. Because it's just 5 years old, as opposed to food, which is like almost 10 years old. So it's half the age, but there's a lot of learnings that we've learned from food that we've replicated onto Marts. Although Marts is a very operations heavy business, Panda Mart, because there are dark kitchens, you have a lot of logistics, supply chain challenges, demand, supply, planning. There's a lot of work that happens. We have 7,000 to 8,000 SKUs in a Mart. How can we take that up to 9 or 10? Is it sustainable? Should we not? Because the more SKUs you have, the bigger space you need. The bigger space you need, it means more operation expenditure because of ACs, also means more rent. Is that zone ready for such a business or not? So it's a lot of interesting supply demand challenges that we need to do. So next year is going to be quick commerce. We will be scaling that up a lot more. We've already started doing that. We've launched franchise Panda Marts. We've opened up new cities. We've opened up, I think, 6 new cities already this year. We'll be opening up another 4, I believe, next year. And second is the tier 2 expansion. That's what we need to focus on.
So, any unforeseeable challenges you see with this? I mean, this plan sounds wonderful, but aapko lagta hai ki are there any unforeseeable challenges that you might foresee? Are you prepared? Is there like a
जो सबसे बड़ा challenge पाकिस्तान का है is always our, economic political challenge. If things sustain, which for the past 18 odd months we've been, from a corporate perspective, we've been very happy to see the direction we've been heading in. Now, if we get those policy changes implemented so that the changes that we've done, they are sustainable for the longer term, that's a little bit of a question mark right now. How deep has that policy change shifted? There's been some shift. Now let's make sure that shift continues, which means all corporates need to join hands as well and make sure that we are all also pushing the country in the same direction. There's not a push and pull. And second is any global impact that can then have an impact on Pakistan. Right now, we're riding a great wave. We've done a phenomenal job of foreign relations as of, capitalizing on the war, the aftermath of the war. How long can we continue that? If that continues, then it's great. However, if some other country decides to shoot down some other country, and we get caught in the middle, which we have no control over, then it's a bit of a challenge, right? And then we don't know how life will be at that point. Hopefully, inshallah, that's not going to be the case. So it's more around that. And lastly, obviously, political stability. As long as stability is there and it's predictable, it really helps us. Why? Because consumers are looking for that predictability. If they know that their disposable income or their savings is going to be X for the next 12 months, they plan this expenditure automatically like that. But if they don't know what it's going to be tomorrow, then they're not going to spend today. They will just hold it till they know, okay, now I have a 30-day run, now I will spend. So that's where those are things not in my control. We can just hope for the best and just try to do whatever we can do from our perspective to make sure that the country is headed in the right direction.
So, Muntaqa, has there ever been a time when operations shut down? Not obviously entirely, but maybe in some city due to any riot or any sort of situation internally or externally? And how did you guys handle that?
So there have been multiple times, right? Torrential rain just abhi recently hui hai. That has caused a lot of challenges for us, and we don't deliver when rain goes beyond a certain level. So we have these automated rain gauges jo hame once, if the speed of rain gauge getting filled up is beyond a certain level, hum zone band kar dete hain because it's not safe for the riders. And then we open it up again jab wo kam ho jata hai. It's simple. However, urban flooding, another challenge. So wo to hain, but those are not long term. Those are 1 day, 2 days and ho jata hai. However, we've had internet shutdowns that have been a bigger challenge for us. So like in May 12th or whatever day it was, a couple of years back, I think. So we struggled bad because all of a sudden the internet was shut down and we have orders in process, but the customer has placed the order because they're sitting at home and they're connected through a wired internet. So unko to app nazar aa rahi hai, so they can place orders. However, the rider is on a wireless, which is on a data connection, which means from the telecom, and the telecoms were asked to shut down. So we had orders hanging in the air, not being assigned to a rider. The vendors, the restaurants and the marts, they were receiving the orders because, again, they're generally connected through a wired internet. So there's a customer and there's a partner. Both are ready. And there's no one in the middle to deliver that order. There's no one in the middle who even knows that there's an order to be delivered. So we struggled the first day. If I remember the numbers correctly, I think we lost around 75% of our daily revenue.
Orders. Okay, revenue. Wow,
second day, it went down from 75 to like 60%. And then the third day, it went down to 30%. So 2.5 days ka ye challenge tha. So in those 2.5 days, we lost maybe like 1.5 days of complete revenue for the month, which is quite high. However, what happened was that taught us a few things. Number one, we now have a business continuity plan in place, which we did not at that time. We had it, but not to the extent of a complete, internet shutdown. We had it for other areas. So now we have that in place. Our partners, even at the restaurants, have been extremely cooperative. So now what happens is whenever there's an internet shutdown, which still happens, we have a list of partners that have internet available to the riders. So including our marts and kitchens, obviously, and our supply hub, jahan pe rider gets recruited. But we also have our partners. So all the vendors, some home chefs, some shops. So the riders go there, they log in, they get the order, they check the address, they check the restaurant they need to pick it up from. They mark picked up at that point because otherwise there's no other way, because then they get the address of the location that they need to drop it off. They see that, they save it, and then they go to the pickup, they pick it up, and then they deliver. And then when they go to deliver at the customer, they ask the customer, if possible, can I get access to the internet so that I can mark it as dropped? So I can get the next order and I can just wait a couple of minutes here. So we have had to have that in place. We've created in our own areas, for example, our marts and our kitchens. We've had backup wired internet as well in place because anything can happen. So we have a whole BCP in place, which is there. We also have teams that get mobilized, like our own employees who go out and assist at the stores as well. So our management team, in fact, was there at the stores helping out, churning out orders as quickly as possible, because what happens is during these outages, sometimes our staff doesn't show up either because A, buses might not be working. B, they may not want to go because they want to stay at home in case there's an emergency at home and they're the sole breadwinners. So they don't end up coming. So our staff, our office staff has gone and acted as a picker and a packer or a dispatcher at marts, at kitchens. So
that's a wonderful story, actually. I mean,
they take pride in it, which is brilliant.
The amount of ownership that every one of your employees has for Foodpanda, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's
very inspiring.
It's an exciting time, to be honest. We end up just being on our phones constantly and opening up our laptops and just helping each other out at that point. But those are genuine concerns that maybe someone sitting in our head office, in the global head office, doesn't really understand because they've never faced such challenges. So it's important for us to be able to not share anything at that point in time, but get everything done. And then post-fact share, okay, this is what we did, and this is how we're handling, situations like these, which has been taken in a very positive sense by our global stakeholders as well.
And you've also done a day in a life of a rider sort of a situation as well. I saw some years ago, I believe.
Yeah, a couple of years back.
How was that experience? Did you learn anything new or anything surprising from? Because wohi baat hai na, sometimes when you're so at the top, you really don't know what's happening at the bottom layer. So how was that experience?
I think my experience was a bit of I would say, a VIP experience.
I can imagine.
A couple of reasons. The PR team wanted to do a video shoot of me as well, so they were with me. So I didn't feel as if there was no one around, because initially I was like, okay, I'll be riding alone on a bike on the road, and can I do it? Can I not do it? I'm not sure, because I've never driven a bike.
Was that your first time?
Yeah, so I got an e-bike.
Oh wow!
Because I can't drive a conventional one. I mean, I'm sure I can. I've never driven it outside on the road. मैंने in close space में चलाई भी. So I got an e-bike, which was branded Foodpanda as well. So it looked really nice. A colleague of mine helped me source that one, and I rode that. I also made a bit of a challenge. I went to pick up an order, and I put the bike, and then when I was getting back onto the bike with the order, so e-bike is just there's a gear here. So I did the gear, and when I was sitting, I didn't realize I revved it. And I had one leg on the bike, the other one struggling, and the bike was going, and there was a car right in front of me. There was a Civic, and I almost smashed into it. I don't know how I survived. The bike didn't fall on me. The order didn't fall on the ground. Nothing spilled, thank God. But so I didn't realize, okay, I need to be a bit more careful. But to be honest, my biggest learning in that was that vendors, contrary to maybe what I had in my mind, they struggle during peak hours a lot more than I had expected, because they have a full dine-in that's sitting there in person. They can scream and shout at you if your orders are late, because we're all entitled as customers. Then they have their own delivery. They have their own takeaway channel. Then they have Foodpanda delivery channel, and they have a Foodpanda takeaway channel. So when you go and you're trying to put pressure on the guy handing over the food, mean, he's going to be like, okay, guys, calm down, wait, right? So that I just had to really put myself in their shoes and calm down and just request, okay, this is my order. It shows 2 minutes pickup time. It's going to be ready in 2 minutes. And then like, who is this guy asking in such a nice manner? Because I wouldn't take my helmet off. I just had the helmet on. I don't want to be, recognized. So that was one thing that I didn't realize, that there's a lot of pressure on the staff at the restaurants, especially at the big ones, for them to be able to, because they don't prioritize. They don't want to prioritize the dine-in customers or the delivery customers. They take orders in flow and then they hand them out as quickly as possible. So it's a struggle at their end. And then imagine that pressure coming in during iftar time between 4 to 6 p.m., for example. Because if your order is 2 minutes late and the azan is gone, the customer says, okay, I don't want it now. I've opened my fast.
Yeah. And that has happened. To be honest, it has happened to me. I've had this similar story. But this brings me to my next question. So, आपका एक challenge है कि rider, there's a wait time of 5 minutes that the rider has to go through. I think this is something that you were discussing in one of your other podcasts. कि, the basically cash handling की वजह से at the customers end, when they're delivering the house orders. So there's a lot of wait time. The riders have to wait outside a lot. Is this challenge still there? And do you guys have a plan to, how do you fix this?
So it's there. The challenge is still there. We're working on an integration where eventually it's going to take maybe a couple of quarters more. We can convert these cash to online, cash orders to online at the doorstep. So you come in, you just scan the QR that's available on the rider and you can just immediately pay. So you don't have to wait for the change to come in, and I don't have a change of 5,000 rupees. So I go to the shop next door and then bring that back. So that hopefully will get resolved. Plus a lot of our cash customers, a lot of them want to see the food before they pay. Prepaid trust deficit is still there. So that will hopefully get resolved through this as well.
I think I'll come to a close with a few last questions. One of the things that was really on my mind was, how do you take care of yourself as a person, your well-being, mental health, especially that you're leading a team in challenging times, you're experimenting, you're failing, you're like literally doing a lot. How do you take a step back and recharge? And just make sure that, you're...
Interesting that this question is being asked to me, because I've been asking this question to all the extended leadership since the past 2 weeks in my catch-ups, and I still have a few more to go. So now I realized this when looking around between family, friends who struggle. Some struggle with stress, some struggle with anxiety, some struggle with depression. So I realized, okay, you're not 20 anymore. There's pressure that's there. Obviously, there's pressure of family as well. You have kids. I mean, I have kids. They're growing up. They have exams. We have stress about that. We stress out more than them probably when they have their exams. So there are multiple things. I mean, I like to play sports, generally speaking. So that's always an outlet. I wish I was a lot more regular, but between some sort of physical activity, be it sport, be it gym, is always there in my life. So that's definitely there. I've also, once I started shifting and started eating a lot more healthier, I feel a change in me as well. Plus, one of the best things we do is we have our quarterly and half yearly connects with our teams where we actually go off site. So we disconnect from the office. I just came back from one. We had one last week with our management team. So we went up into the mountains for a couple of days. We did clamping. And we didn't talk about work, but we talked about everything else other than work. So really bonded with each other, understood what our challenges are, discovered some facts about each other that we did not know, and really came closer as a team. So I think that really helps. Just taking that time out a little bit, disconnecting. I love to travel. I've traveled with my family a lot. Whenever I get a chance, I just, go out as much as possible. So there are ways. Plus, I'm blessed that we're working in an organization where we can also work remotely. So I can just tell my manager, I just want to take a week off. I don't want to be in Pakistan. Can I go and work from there? Generally, they say yes. So I can always take the family. And
work-life balance is really important.
I don't think there's a work-life balance. You need to balance your work within your life and your life within your work. That's because our business is always on. It's 24/7. Peak times are when you are not in the office. So evenings, dinner times, weekends, Eid, holidays, those are peak times for us. So we work in a different industry. So we need to be on always. So then we need to see when the downtimes are there, we can take those breaks at that point in time.
And then how does this trickle down into your riders? Because I understand you were asking this question to your extended management and the people leading, but what about the people at the very bottom? Of course, riders ke liye to it's just, delivering and speeding to the next order, delivering and speeding to the next. So it's a lot of like a rat race going on a day-to-day basis. And that, of course, affects your mental health, right? So is there like a plan or something you have in place for the riders and how they can make sure that they're also very, like they're looking after their well-being? I don't think that's something that I've seen probably in a few companies here and there, but just want to know, just curious if Foodpanda does that too.
So we don't have a structured program in place, but the whole gig economy is based on flexibility, right? And that's the whole point, that when you feel as if you're stressed out or you've hit a wall or you're burnt out, take a break and you go. However, if you take a break and you go, you're not earning at that point, right? So are we giving you enough opportunities to earn more than you regularly would in between? So for example, Asia Cup was happening, right? So the riders were earning more during Pakistan matches. So what that means is maybe they can take 3 days off rather than 1, or maybe 4 days off, or maybe 5 days off, depending how much they worked on those days. And they would have earned more. So they've already saved that money up. A lot of the riders, what they do is they work during Eid and then they take the next 7 to 10 days off because they've earned so much money. In fact, a lot of times they've come up to us. I remember one rider actually served tea to our people. They were meeting somewhere and they're like, "Ye chai meri taraf se aap logon ko." And they were like, "Why?" Like, because I have earned so much in the past 7 days that now I have enough money for the next 1 month. And if I want, I can take a month off and not be, any worse. So there are those situations as well. So our aim essentially is give you flexibility so you can take care of things whenever you have to. B, give you enough opportunities to earn more so that you can save more as well. And C, we try to give as many options to the riders to be able to save. So discounted tires, discounted, oil changes, installment-based bikes, installment-based cell phones. So you save money. So all in all, that whole package should be good so that you can take some time off as well to yourself. And if you want to earn more, you can put in extra hours and earn more as well.
No, interesting. Thank you for letting me know. This is something that I was just really curious about. And I'll ask you just one last question. It's a very cliche question, but if you look at yourself maybe 5 years ago, what's that one? 5 years ago, 10 years ago, what is that piece of advice you would give yourself?
So I think I'm probably going to say another cliche thing as well, but join a company that you can wake up and be excited to go to work. If you're not excited to go to work, it's time to leave.
Yeah, well, that's a good one. Thank you so much, Muntaqa. It was a pleasure having you here and getting to know more about Foodpanda and, of course, you as a leader as well. And I hope that, we get to have certain conversations, of course, in the future too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.